Donald Trump walked away from the most critical G7 summit in decades. As world leaders tried to prevent global catastrophe, the President of the United States decided he had somewhere more important to be. This is the story of how America abandoned its allies when they needed leadership most. The G7 summit in Kananaskis, Alberta, was supposed to be about unity. 7 of the world's most powerful democracies gathering to address global crises. The war in Ukraine, Middle East tensions, economic challenges. Instead, it became a symbol of American isolation. When Trump left Monday night, he didn't just abandon a meeting, he abandoned the very concept of multilateral leadership that has defined Western democracy since World War II. Monday afternoon, Trump warns everyone should immediately evacuate Tehran. Monday evening, he's boarding Air Force One, abandoning critical Tuesday meetings on Ukraine and trade. The timing wasn't coincidental. As the Middle East teetered on the brink of regional war, Trump chose unilateral action over collective diplomacy. His departure left 6 world leaders scrambling to maintain relevance while America pursued its own agenda. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky was flying to Canada specifically to meet with Trump. For a leader fighting for his nation's survival, this meeting represented potential game-changing American support. Instead, Zelensky landed to find an empty chair and a cancelled agenda. The optics were devastating. America's most important ally in the fight against authoritarianism, abandoned mid-crisis by the leader of the free world. Prime Minister Mark Carney, President Macron, Chancellor Merz, Prime Minister Starmer, Prime Minister Maloney, Prime Minister Ishiba, 6 leaders trying to prove the G7 still matters without its most powerful member. It was a painful echo of Britain's Brexit moment. When unity fractures, everyone scrambles to prove they're still relevant. But global problems require global solutions, and America's absence made every discussion feel incomplete. Before leaving, Trump delivered an ultimatum disguised as diplomacy. Iran had 60 days to make a nuclear deal, and that deadline had passed. They have to make a deal, he declared, while simultaneously ordering Tehran's evacuation. This wasn't negotiation, it was public preparation for military action. Trump's departure signaled that America had moved beyond diplomacy to unilateral force projection. While allies pleaded for unity, Trump announced expanded tariffs, 50% on steel and aluminum, 25% on automobiles, 10% on most imports, with potential increases in July. The message was clear. Even America's closest allies were viewed as economic adversaries. When Britain's Starmer signed a trade framework, Trump's response revealed everything. "I like them. That's why. That's their ultimate protection." Trump's trade framework with Britain revealed his approach to alliance management. Personal relationships trumped institutional commitments. "I like them, that's why," wasn't diplomacy, it was royal court behavior. Allies now had to curry personal favor, rather than rely on shared values or strategic interests. The predictability that made America a reliable partner was being replaced by presidential whim. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi was scheduled to join the G7 discussions, representing the Global South's perspective on Western leadership. Trump's departure sent a clear message to developing nations. America's commitment to multilateral engagement was conditional and unreliable. This created an opening for China and Russia to position themselves as more reliable partners for emerging economies. No US president had ever abandoned a G7 summit mid-crisis since the group's formation in 1975. Eisenhower stayed for difficult NATO discussions during Suez. Reagan maintained alliance unity during Cold War tensions. Bush coordinated response to 9/11 with allies. Trump's departure broke 50 years of American leadership precedent, signaling that alliance management was no longer an American priority. As Trump's plane disappeared over the Atlantic, the remaining 6 leaders faced a stark reality. They needed to prove global democracy could function without American leadership. Their final communiqué would test whether Western values could survive American indifference. It was a moment that redefined the G7 from American-led coalition to American optional association. French President Macron's confusion was telling. He initially claimed Trump left to work on Iran's ceasefire negotiations, only to be publicly corrected by Trump himself. When allies can't accurately communicate American intentions, it reveals the breakdown of the coordination that has defined Western security for decades. Miscommunication between allies creates opportunities for adversaries. The G7's founding principle was that global challenges required coordinated responses from democratic powers. Trump's departure didn't just disrupt one summit. It challenged the fundamental assumption that America would participate in multilateral problem-solving. When the world's most powerful democracy opts out of democratic coordination, it weakens the entire system of international cooperation that has prevented global conflicts for 80 years. Trump may have returned to Washington for something very important, but he left behind something equally important: the trust and coordination that has kept the democratic world united for nearly a century. The remaining 6 leaders proved democracy can adapt.